The Vatican. Just hearing the word pulls at something ancient in the mind. The seat of the Catholic Church, a sovereign city-state smaller than a shopping mall, and yet one of the most powerful forces in human history. For nearly 2,000 years, it has shaped the world, sometimes openly, sometimes from the shadows. But what is the Vatican really hiding? It begins with the walls. Massive stone barriers rise, cutting off the heart of Rome from the prying eyes of the world. Inside, winding corridors, hidden libraries, private chambers. Beneath, catacombs deeper than anyone has dared to fully map. Not even modern technology has uncovered all their twists and turns. And then the archives. They call it the Archivum Secretum Apostolicum Vaticanum, the Vatican Secret Archives. A place where over 50 miles of shelving hold documents no outsider may freely read. Documents written by emperors, popes, heretics, even ancient sorcerers, if some whispers are to be believed. It is said that less than 5% of the archive's contents have ever been cataloged for public knowledge. But what lies within? That's what drew me to this search. One secret in particular has haunted scholars for generations: the chronovisor. An alleged device built in the 1950s by Father Pellegrino Ernetti, a Benedictine monk and scientist. According to rare surviving accounts, the chronovisor allowed the viewer to witness past events, a kind of time window powered by mysterious electromagnetic frequencies. Ernetti claimed to have seen the crucifixion of Christ, but soon after, the Vatican reportedly confiscated the device and erased all public traces of its existence. Now, only fragments of Ernetti's notes remain, smuggled out by colleagues who feared the implications. If a machine could truly witness the past, imagine the power it would grant to those in control of history. And this is just one thread. Another comes from a series of medieval manuscripts locked away after the Inquisition, the Sibylline letters. Ancient prophecies, too unsettling to be read aloud, predicting the downfall of kingdoms and the rise of an unknown Black Pope, a figure of immense influence cloaked in shadows. For centuries, the Vatican denied the letters' existence. But in 1973, a brief reference slipped into an academic journal citing an unnamed vaulted collection beneath the Apostolic Palace. The trail was quickly buried, but rumors persist. Of course, secrets are not only about texts. There are relics, too. Strange objects with histories so dark they were locked away for the safety of the faithful. One such artifact, the hand of St. Cyprian, said to grant dark blessings or curses, depending on the intent of the user. During the 1600s, reports of miraculous and disastrous events surrounded the relic. Then, it vanished from public record. Only in 1987 did a whispered inventory list emerge, listing a Manus Dextra Sancti Cypriani stored in a sealed reliquary in the deepest vaults of the Vatican. And then, there is the question of non-human remains. You heard that correctly. In 1992, a classified letter surfaced, allegedly authored by a Vatican archivist. It spoke of skeletal remains, not quite human, not quite animal, discovered beneath the Basilica of St. Peter. The letter described elongated skulls with cranial cavities too large for Homo sapiens. The bones were quickly relocated, sealed in a vault, and erased from inventory. To this day, no official record of these remains exists. But the letter remains, a ghost in the archives. The deeper you dig, the stranger it becomes. Consider the secret rites, ceremonies not for the public, nor even for most clergy, but for a select few, guardians of ancient knowledge. One such rite whispered among old monastic circles is the Liturgy of the Veil, a midnight ceremony invoking unseen watchers beneath the catacombs. Its purpose, unknown, but in the 19th century a French scholar named Henri Béraud reported seeing glimpses of this rite before disappearing under mysterious circumstances. And the walls of the Vatican remember. Every stone, every corridor hides layers of stories. Take the Scala Sancta, the holy stairs. Pilgrims ascend them on their knees, believing them to be the very steps Christ climbed before Pontius Pilate. But few know what lies beneath. A a sealed room, its contents removed after an unexplained incident in 1951. The records of that year note only eventum extraordinarium, an extraordinary event. No further details were ever released. And still, this is only the surface. For every documented curiosity, there are a dozen more that remain whispers. Tunnels connecting the Vatican to ancient Mithric temples beneath Rome. Forbidden books in languages unknown to modern scholars. Artifacts said to predate the church itself. Why such secrecy? Because some truths could unravel the fabric of belief, and that, perhaps, is the Vatican's greatest secret of all, the power to decide what the world is allowed to know and what must remain hidden. But if you think that's the end, you haven't seen anything yet. In the next section, we'll explore a terrifying chapter buried in the Church's own history, a moment when a single discovery nearly shattered the Vatican from within. And you won't want to miss what comes next. And let's be honest, you probably wouldn't have survived back then. Just saying. Before we go on, I have a question for you. Do you believe that some truths should remain hidden? Or does humanity have the right to know everything, no matter the cost? Share your thoughts in the comments below. There's a hidden room beneath the Vatican Library. It doesn't appear on official maps. It's not included in the tour routes. Even many cardinals have never seen it. But according to leaked floor plans and the testimonies of several former insiders, it exists. They call it the Chamber of Shadows. No one knows exactly when it was constructed. Some say the foundations date back to the Roman Empire. Others claim it was built during the Renaissance, after a series of incidents involving forbidden books. What we do know is this: it's there to contain things that should not be read. Not merely heretical texts, not just banned doctrines, but writings said to be cursed. Take, for instance, the infamous Codex Gigas, the so-called Devil's Bible, a massive tome written by a 13th century monk containing arcane knowledge and a full-page portrait of Lucifer himself. One copy resides in Prague, but rumors speak of a second volume, one that never saw the light of day. A copy bound not in calfskin, but something else. A darker, softer material. A volume the Vatican quietly obtained in the early 1600s after a brutal raid on a remote monastery. What's in it? No one outside the Vatican knows. But for centuries, strange deaths and disappearances have followed those even rumored to have read from its pages. And that's only one of many such artifacts. Let's turn to another, the Mirror of St. Gregory. Allegedly crafted in the early medieval period, this mirror was said to show not one's reflection, but one's soul. Early church records mention it sparingly and always with caution. It was last seen in public in 1635 when a bishop reportedly gazed into it and screamed in terror before collapsing dead. Since then, the object vanished, until an anonymous letter surfaced in the 1970s, claiming it had been quietly transferred to the Chamber of Shadows, sealed in iron and salt. Still think it's all just legends? Then consider the Vatican's dealings with UFOs. Yes, you heard that right. In the post-WWJD years, the Vatican established a secret liaison with several European governments and intelligence agencies. Their purpose: to collect, investigate, and, if necessary, suppress any evidence of non-terrestrial phenomena. One of the most infamous cases involved a 1954 crash in the Italian Alps. According to classified reports later leaked to the Italian press, an unidentified craft was recovered, along with the bodies of two humanoid figures. The wreckage was not taken to a government base. It was brought to the Vatican. Why? Because the Church has its own doctrines about the stars. Ancient theological texts speak of the Grigori, the Watchers, beings who came from the heavens and walked among humans. Some were angels, others fallen ones. Could the Vatican fear that public knowledge of extraterrestrial life would reignite these ancient heresies? We may never know, but the records exist, buried deep in the archives. And then there's the mysterious Index Librorum Occultum, an ultra-secret list, far darker than the well-known Index of Forbidden Books. This list, maintained only by the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, contains works not merely banned, but declared dangerous to the human soul. Not even the titles are made public. Some say it includes grimoires from ancient Mesopotamia. Others, lost scrolls from Alexandria, recovered centuries later. Still others, texts of unknown origin, written in no known language. One scholar who allegedly glimpsed part of the index before being silenced described it simply as words that burn themselves into the mind. And that's not the only chilling evidence. In 1998, a secret excavation beneath the Vatican unearthed a sealed stone sarcophagus. No inscriptions, no markings. When opened, the chamber was found empty, except for a single golden disc inscribed with cryptic symbols not of any known script. The artifact was immediately classified and removed from inventory. Official Vatican records make no mention of it, but whispers speak of it being kept in a magnetic containment field, as if the object itself exerts an unknown force. What does this mean? Here's one theory passed between Vatican insiders. Some of the secrets hidden beneath Rome are not of this world or this reality. Certain objects, certain words, do not merely convey knowledge. They change those who encounter them, not in the way of learning, but in ways deeper, stranger, more dangerous. And this, perhaps, is why so much is kept from us. Not all knowledge is safe. But if you think we've uncovered the worst, think again. Because in the next section, we'll step into the forbidden heart of the Vatican's own rituals and what has been happening behind closed doors for centuries. And honestly, if you'd been there in the 1600s, well, you probably wouldn't have survived then. But before we continue, do you believe there are books or objects so dangerous they should never be revealed to the public? Or is secrecy always worse than truth? Tell us in the comments. And if this has you intrigued, be sure to subscribe, because what's coming next is far more disturbing than you imagine. In 1944, as the Allies pushed through Italy, an unusual order came down from the Vatican. Certain subterranean archives were to be sealed. Not just locked, sealed. Entire chambers walled with fresh stone, blessed, warded, and left to be forgotten. Why? Because what lay inside had just become too dangerous. Let's start with the Chronicles of the Black Cross, a series of documents detailing an obscure branch of the Inquisition that operated well into the 19th century. Their mission: to track, capture, and, if necessary, eliminate individuals exhibiting supernatural abilities. I know what you're thinking. Sounds like pure fiction. But reports of the Black Cross appear in disparate European police records. Unsolved murders, unexplained disappearances, all tied to robed figures matching Vatican descriptions. One chilling entry, found in an old Swiss constabulary file, describes the 1879 disappearance of an entire village elder council after a visit from 3 foreign priests. Witnesses reported strange lights and an overpowering chanting heard from beneath the church that night. The next morning, the elders were gone. Their families relocated under church authority and sworn to silence. Now, skeptics may laugh, but why did the Vatican order the sealing of Black Cross archives in 1944? And why did every post-war pope refuse to reopen them? Next, consider the Vatican's relationship with relics, not the ones on display, but those kept hidden. We all know about saintly bones, fragments of the true cross, and so on. But beneath St. Peter's Basilica lie relics of another kind. A 1972 secret inventory references artifacts of non-human origin, specifically 3 small metallic tablets covered in indecipherable glyphs. These were discovered in 1921, buried beneath an ancient church in southern France known for medieval Cathar activity. Tests conducted by the Vatican's own scientific team found that the metal composition did not match any known alloy. Even today's materials cannot replicate it. The tablets emit a faint pulsing electromagnetic field, as though responding to something. What were they? Who made them? The Vatican remained silent. And what about the prophecies of the Sibylline scrolls? Officially, these ancient oracles were lost when the Roman temples fell. Unofficially, At least 2 scroll fragments were acquired by the Vatican during the Napoleonic era and locked away. According to whispers from scholars who glimpsed the translations, these fragments describe a catastrophic event in the land of the rising sun, Japan, linked to the rise of a red star in the heavens. The prophecy aligns eerily with Japan's 20th century history, and some believe it also points to a future event not yet fulfilled. Is this why certain Vatican envoys made secret trips to Tokyo in the 1980s? No one knows. Now, brace yourself, because it gets stranger. In the 1960s, a monk named Brother Clement attempted to translate a little-known gospel, the Gospel of the Serpent. He vanished before completing his work, but fragments of his notes survived. They reference a being of light who claims to have seeded humanity with forbidden knowledge and who promises to return. The Vatican buried the project. Clement's quarters were emptied, his name erased from records. Coincidence or deliberate suppression? Then there is the case of the sleeping child. In 1953, a child was discovered in a remote Italian village, perfectly preserved but in a state of suspended animation. No heartbeat, no breath, yet the body remained warm. Scientists could not explain it. The child was brought to the Vatican for study and vanished from public knowledge. But files recovered in 1991 during a brief archive reorganization describe continued monitoring of the child, who remained unchanged for decades. Current location unknown. And finally, the most chilling piece of all, the Concordat of Shadows, a 14th century document allegedly forged between a secret order within the church and something else, something not human. Written in a blend of Latin, Hebrew, and an unknown script, the Concordat outlines an agreement of mutual non-interference in exchange for knowledge. The document has never been released, but odd reports from Vatican guards in the 1970s speak of strange hooded figures seen entering closed chambers, at times when no meetings were scheduled. Are these legends? Perhaps. But why then does the modern Vatican employ silence orders, specially trained monks whose sole duty is to enforce secrecy by any means? And why, to this day, do certain underground vaults remain permanently sealed, even from the current pope? If you think this is all there is, you're mistaken, because next we'll explore what the Vatican knows about the afterlife and what it has chosen not to tell us. And honestly, if you'd been one of those guards on night watch, you probably wouldn't have made it out alive. But tell us, do you think the Vatican truly possesses knowledge of extraterrestrial contact, or are these simply old legends spun into modern myths? Leave your thoughts below, and if you haven't subscribed yet, trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. In the deep, echoing corridors beneath Vatican City, there is a room that almost no one speaks of. It's not marked on any tour maps. No photos exist of it. No official acknowledgement confirms its presence. But its name circulates in certain whispered conversations. The Chamber of the Dead Tongues. What lies there? According to accounts from archivists and a few defrocked clergy, this chamber holds a collection of scrolls, tablets, and codices written in languages no longer spoken, and some that never were. These are not ordinary dead languages like Sumerian or Linear A. These are tongues that by all logic should not exist. Their structure defies known linguistic patterns. Some are composed of non-repeating glyphs. Others display symbols that seem to shift when viewed for too long. Why keep such writings? Because they describe rituals, and those rituals still work. Take, for example, the Scroll of Ibon. Mentioned only in the most obscure corners of medieval demonology, this scroll was recovered from a French abbey in the 1500s, its monks all found dead, their bodies contorted in agony. When Vatican scholars first attempted a partial translation, strange phenomena were reported. Flickering lights, sudden illnesses, a pervasive sense of dread. The scroll was sealed away. But even in its resting place, visitors speak of voices that echo through the stone. And that is just the beginning. Let's talk about the petrified monk. In 1967, during renovations beneath a minor basilica in northern Italy, workers broke through a collapsed chamber and found a seated monk perfectly preserved in stone. His robes, flesh, even his eyelashes, all transmuted into a gray, marble-like substance. The strange thing, the monk's face wore a serene smile. An investigation revealed that he had been a member of an obscure order known as Custodes Verbi, keepers of the word. Their doctrine centered on the belief that certain spoken phrases could alter reality itself. Did this monk trigger such a phrase and become trapped in a liminal state? No one knows, but the petrified monk was quietly transported to the Vatican and hidden away. Then there is the legend of the Sanguine manuscript. This cursed book, bound in crimson leather, first appeared in Florence during the Black Death. Those who read its pages soon fell into madness or death. The Vatican acquired it in 1498, but not before several cardinals died after exposure to its contents. What's written within? One surviving note from an ill-fated translator reads simply, "Knowledge of the flesh, not meant for mortal minds." But here's where it gets even stranger. In the 1990s, the Vatican quietly partnered with a private AI company, a move unprecedented at the time. The goal? To digitize and analyze forbidden texts too dangerous for human eyes. Some say the AI project uncovered patterns in these writings, suggesting they contain more than mere heresy. Some suggest they encode a form of information transmission beyond language, possibly non-human in origin. Of course, the Vatican denies this. But when the AI company suddenly shut down and its lead developer mysteriously disappeared, questions remained. And let's not forget the sealed letters of Pius XIII. During WE, Pope Pius XII reportedly received a series of anonymous letters, each predicting major events of the war with eerie accuracy. The letters were unsigned. The ink used was of unknown composition, and, most unsettling of all, the letters referenced knowledge that only the Pope himself could have known. Who wrote them? One theory, a secret society within the Vatican. Another, a time traveler. A third, more chilling possibility, something other. To this day, those letters are locked in a lead-lined vault. No scans, no copies. The current Pope has never read them, and perhaps never will. But the mysteries don't end there. The Red Veil, a cloth artifact held deep in the archives, reportedly stained with blood, but not human blood. Tests in the 1970s showed an unidentifiable hemoglobin structure. The artifact is so dangerous it is kept under triple containment. Legend says that contact with the Red Veil induces vivid prophetic visions, but at a terrible cost, rapid physical aging. Is it a relic of the Grigori? A Nephilim fragment? No one knows. And finally, the chant of the forgotten name, an ancient hymn written in an unknown key and rhythm. It cannot be performed safely. On the two occasions it was sung, once in the 1800s, once accidentally in the 1970s, the singers fell into catatonic states. One later died of unexplained causes. The hymn now rests, sealed in wax, in a soundproof chamber. And yet, some say the Vatican fears its rediscovery most of all, for the chant's lyrics supposedly invoke the true name of God, a name not meant for mortal lips. Now ask yourself, why are these things hidden? What are they protecting us from? And what might be lost if the seals were ever broken? But if you think this is the end of the secrets, not even close. Because next, we'll explore the Vatican's secret experiments with the afterlife and the terrifying discoveries they've made. And honestly, if you'd been one of those monks trying to translate the chant, you probably wouldn't have lasted the night. But tell me, do you think some knowledge is better left unknown? Or should the truth always come to light? Let me know in the comments. And if you're brave enough, subscribe now, because what comes next will shake your view of life and death. Imagine this: a darkened laboratory somewhere beneath the Vatican Library. Rows of antique equipment mixed with modern tech. EEG monitors next to ancient reliquaries. Bio-containment chambers alongside medieval manuscripts. What are they studying? The afterlife. For centuries, the Vatican has quietly conducted experiments, not on life, but on what comes after. It began in the 1800s when a little-known Jesuit scholar, Father Alonso Verratti, obsessed over the question of persistence of the soul. He conducted crude seances, then more advanced studies using magnetism and early electrical devices. What Verratti claimed to discover shocked even the most open-minded theologians, that human consciousness leaves measurable traces after death, detectable for minutes, sometimes hours. His notes were confiscated, his equipment dismantled. The project was buried until the 1960s. During the height of the Cold War, reports surfaced of Soviet parapsychology programs trying to weaponize the paranormal. In response, a secret Vatican directive reactivated Verratti's line of inquiry. Enter Project Manus Domini, using state-of-the-art biosensors, sound isolation chambers, and even prototype spirit photography. Vatican scientists sought to capture evidence of the soul. One early experiment involved a nun, Sister Helena, terminally ill but lucid. Electroencephalogram readings continued minutes after her heart had stopped. The data was inexplicable. Rhythmic patterns, almost like a language. That recording still exists, but access is highly restricted. Another test, sealed rooms with automated cameras triggered only by temperature and electromagnetic changes. In multiple trials, shadow-like forms appeared at the moment of death, shapes that defied explanation. One Jesuit physicist involved later fled to South America, claiming the Vatican was tampering with forces beyond comprehension. But the most controversial device was the chronovisor. Allegedly constructed in the 1950s by Father Pellegrino Ernetti, a Benedictine monk and physicist, the chronovisor was said to be a kind of time viewer. Using electromagnetic fields and obscure quantum harmonics, it could tune in to past events and, perhaps, glimpses of souls. Photographs reportedly captured images of ancient Rome and of individuals who had died centuries earlier. Skeptics call it a hoax, but some Vatican insiders insist fragments of the chronovisor still exist in a lead-sealed room beneath the archives. Why does this matter? Because if the soul can be measured, if the past can be viewed, then the nature of sin, salvation, even reality itself, comes into question, and the Church cannot allow certain truths to spread. Consider this. In 1997, an anonymous whistleblower leaked reports of Vatican tests involving recorded voices of the dead, captured through specialized microphones in ancient catacombs. The voices reportedly answered questions in Latin, Greek, and unknown tongues. Skeptical, so were many within the Church, until one of the recordings appeared to contain the voice of a pope who had died 600 years earlier, referencing secrets only known to the papal lineage. Those tapes, suppressed. The whistleblower, never heard from again. Then there are the relics. Artifacts claimed to be connected to saints or martyrs, but when tested, they exhibit strange electromagnetic properties. Some even affect nearby electronics. One reliquary was quietly removed after a visiting cardinal collapsed, later saying he'd seen a shadowed figure staring at him during Mass. And what about the tomb of the sleeping child? Hidden beneath a forgotten chapel in Vatican territory, this tomb contains a perfectly preserved infant surrounded by inscriptions in an unknown script. The child's eyes are open, and according to those who have seen it, they sometimes blink. Speculation runs wild. A changeling, a Nephilim hybrid, a failed resurrection attempt? No official explanation has ever been given. But here's the chilling part. Some believe the Vatican is preparing for something. An event, a return, or perhaps a test of resurrection itself. Which brings us to a final whispered tale, the Lazarus Protocol, said to be a forbidden rite. Combining ancient scripture with modern tech, the protocol allegedly aims to restore life to the recently dead. 2 test subjects, 2 failures, but 1 partial success. A man revived, but not entirely human. His mind fractured, his body wrong. After a brief period, he begged for death. That chamber remained sealed. So, ask yourself, Why is the Vatican investing so much in the afterlife? What do they fear or hope to bring back? But if you think this is the deepest of their secrets, think again. Because next, we'll uncover the Vatican's hidden dealings with extraterrestrial entities and what they don't want you to know about visitors from beyond. And between you and me, if you'd been in that room with the chronovisor, you'd probably never sleep again. But tell me, do you believe the soul leaves behind traces? Or are we alone after the end? Let me know your thoughts. And if this got you thinking, subscribe now. Because what's coming next will leave you speechless. It's time to go even deeper. We've explored ancient manuscripts, forbidden artifacts, secret rites. But there is one layer of Vatican secrecy that surpasses all others, one that very few dare even whisper about. The Vatican and the extraterrestrial question. Yes, you heard that right. For decades, quiet rumors have circulated that the Church possesses proof of contact with non-human intelligences. And not only that, but that it is preparing humanity for an inevitable revelation. Let's start with something public. In 2009, Father José Gabriel Funes, the Vatican's chief astronomer, gave an interview stating that belief in extraterrestrial life is compatible with Catholic doctrine. That was no casual statement. Behind the scenes, the Vatican Observatory, located at Mount Graham in Arizona, had been receiving data from deep sky telescopes. Strange anomalies, non-random signals, patterns that suggested intelligence. But this is just the surface. Declassified documents from post-Dasuir or Italy reveal that Vatican operatives were among the first on scene after the 1941 Montalcino UFO crash, a case eerily similar to Roswell but hidden from the world. Recovered debris stored in secret at Castel Gandolfo included materials not of earthly origin, thin, flexible metals, fibrous composites impervious to heat. Even stranger, biological residue, cells that did not match any known life. Why was the Vatican involved? Because it wasn't the first time. Hidden in the archives is a codex, the Liber Extraterrestri, dating back to the 12th century. It depicts beings descending from the heavens, offering knowledge to mystics, and demanding tribute. Some theologians believe the Nephilim of Genesis, the sons of God who mated with human women, were in fact ancient visitors. Fast forward to the modern era. In 1968, during the Second Vatican Council, a secret meeting was held, known only as Concilio Lux, where a select group of cardinals and scientists reviewed the implications of confirmed extraterrestrial presence. The minutes of that meeting remain classified. But leaks suggest one conclusion, that certain apparitions of the Virgin Mary, from Fatima to Akita, may have involved non-human influence. This theory shook the very foundation of the Church. And then there are the Vatican's deep space communication efforts. Partnering with global observatories, they've monitored what insiders call the Voice, a recurring radio signal highly structured emanating from the Tau Ceti system. In 1994, a breakthrough occurred. Using quantum resonance algorithms, Vatican scientists partially decoded the signal. What they found? A warning, or perhaps an invitation. The message, in simplified translation, you are not alone. The cycle repeats. Prepare. Prepare for what? Some believe the Church knows. In fact, Vatican engineers have allegedly constructed a sealed underground chapel known as the Sanctum Novum, designed to withstand non-terrestrial incursion. Why? Because certain prophecies, including the third secret of Fatima, suggest a coming great deception where the line between divine and alien will blur. And here's where it gets darker. In 2013, an internal memo, leaked briefly before being scrubbed, referenced biological communion protocols, suggesting the Vatican is studying ways to spiritually integrate with non-human life. Think about that. Are they preparing for contact or for a kind of cosmic hybridization? And what if the Pope himself? Whispers suggest that during private retreats, select popes have met with entities, not angels, not demons, but others, visitors with knowledge of time, space, and the soul. Which brings us full circle. Why the secrecy? Because if the public knew, if the faithful knew, the very structure of human belief would collapse or evolve. One final story. In 2020, a Vatican security team intercepted an unauthorized drone near the archives. What they found on the drone's camera feed stunned them. It had captured footage of a being, tall, luminous, with eyes like dark stars, walking the halls beneath the library. That footage has never been released. But insiders say it forced a new directive: accelerate public preparation. So what does this mean for us? Is disclosure near? Will the church lead or suppress the truth? And what will happen when we are no longer alone? You probably wouldn't want to be in the sanctum novum when that day comes. Trust me, you wouldn't last 5 minutes. But I'll ask you this: if undeniable proof of alien life emerged tomorrow, would your faith shatter or adapt? Tell me in the comments. And if you followed us this far, subscribe now, because the next revelations might just rewrite everything. There are archives in the Vatican even insiders dare not enter. They call them sealed chambers, not because of physical locks, but because of ancient oaths passed quietly through centuries. If the 6 sections you've just heard unsettled you, this one may truly disturb your sleep. Because in the deepest vaults, beneath stone foundations older than the basilica itself, there exist records no pope has dared to make public. Records of visitors, not of this world. The earliest mention dates to the 8th century. A papal scribe known as Brother Theophilus wrote of men with luminous faces, bearing no mouths, who descended in chariots of silver light. His text was buried. Yet centuries later, fragments appeared in the Codex Vaticanus. During the reign of Pope Sylvester II, a man whispered to have studied forbidden Arab sciences. Mysterious objects were reported hovering above St. Peter's Square. Witness accounts describe floating discs emitting low, resonant hums that caused metal to tremble. In 1938, during the Nazi visit to Rome, Heinrich Himmler's occult team demanded access to Vatican astral records, allegedly stored beneath the Apostolic Library. The church refused. 3 days later, one of the Swiss guards on duty disappeared. His body was found weeks later, with burns not caused by fire and bones like glass. Then, there's the third secret of Fatima. The public knows part of it, but multiple former Vatican officials, now whistleblowers, claim that what remains hidden relates not to earthly wars, but the arrival of entities under false banners. Documents allegedly describe shifting forms and voices speaking all languages at once. Even more unsettling, reports exist of secret exorcisms, not on people, but on locations, specific chambers beneath the Vatican itself. Why would sacred rites be performed on stone? But perhaps the most chilling is a map, drawn in the 1400s by an unknown cartographer known only as FM. Initials found in the margins. The map depicts a land not found on any globe. Terra incognita angelorum, unknown land of the angels. But the landmass is massive, and surrounding it, symbols resembling modern depictions of wormholes or quantum portals. The Vatican refuses to authenticate it. Recent leaks from sympathetic insiders suggest something more terrifying: that contact of some kind was made, that artifacts not of this earth are held in the sanctum sanctorum. Some say these are keys, others locks. Because here's the final, most forbidden claim: that buried beneath St. Peter's lies not a tomb, but a gate. A gate once meant to remain closed. And the rituals, the secrecy, all of it is to keep something in, not keep us out. But if that seal is ever broken, we may all wish we had never sought these answers. And yes, you probably wouldn't have survived back then. But the real question is, will we survive what's coming? There is a question that echoes through every Vatican corridor, every dusty archive, every sealed room deep beneath Rome. What don't we know? Because for all the secrets exposed so far, the darkest truths may still be untouched, buried beneath layers of denial, not just to protect the church, but to protect us all. In 1972, a team of Jesuit scholars, experts in ancient languages, was granted access to an unmarked collection within the Apostolic Archive. What they found chilled even the most devout among them. A series of stone tablets. Not Roman, not Greek, but older, some say pre-Diluvian. The writing, unlike any known script, but what little they could translate spoke of watchers, beings who once walked among men, shaping knowledge and destiny. The texts warned, when the stars align, the gate shall open, and the forgotten shall return. And then, the records stopped. The project was sealed, participants sworn to lifelong silence. But that's not where this ends. Decades later, in the late 1990s, an Italian journalist, Pietro Sabatini, claimed to have obtained images from inside the Vatican's secret room of mirrors. This chamber, hidden beneath the papal apartments, supposedly holds not books, but devices. Strange mechanical constructs of unknown origin, gears without purpose, mirrors that reflect no human image, globes that float in mid-air. The journalist's report disappeared. So did Sabatini. Some say the church uses these artifacts to watch the watchers. Others claim they're remnants of a war, an ancient cosmic battle that Earth barely remembers. And then there's the rumor of the Black Book, a single volume, bound in a leather unknown to any modern analysis, supposedly written by those who came before. Descriptions suggest it contains knowledge not meant for human minds, formulas, prophecies, rituals, and the true history of mankind's origins. A Vatican archivist whose identity remains secret once confessed, if this book were ever made public, it would not destroy the church. It would destroy reality itself. Because here's the final terrifying secret. The Vatican is not just hiding knowledge. It is holding back time. Through its archives, its rites, its hidden sciences, the church may be preventing something far worse than heresy, something ancient, vast, and waiting. But if the wrong hands ever gain control of these secrets, if the Black Book is opened, if the seals are broken, if the watchers awaken, then the age of men may come to a very different end. And in that moment, you definitely wouldn't survive. None of us would. But is this really the end of the trail? Or are there even deeper layers the Vatican has yet to reveal? The next discoveries could shake everything we believe. Stay tuned. And let me ask you this. If such a book exists, would you want it opened? Or are some truths better left buried? Tell me in the comments below. I want to hear your thoughts. The silence of the ancient halls weighs heavily. The stained glass windows, once catching the light of the Roman sun, are now veiled by thick curtains. The stone floors seem to chill to the bone. Few walk here. No tourists. No casual clergy. Even among Vatican insiders, this wing remains something of a whispered boundary. This is where documents live that no one dares to speak of openly. One of the strangest stories hidden here is that of the protocols of the Vatican Observatory. In 1973, a group of astronomers working at the Vatican Observatory in Castel Gandolfo recorded a mysterious object in Earth's orbit. For several weeks, it appeared sporadically, its movements defying the laws of physics. The object would shift trajectory, hover, and vanish without explanation. The data were cataloged and immediately classified. According to correspondence unearthed decades later, the Vatican's inner circle deemed the discovery too dangerous for public knowledge. The records cite fears of spiritual panic among the faithful and refer to an unknown non-human intelligence. Those exact words. What followed is even stranger. Over the next several years, it appears that the Vatican began actively commissioning reports on unidentified aerial phenomena. Certain military and scientific records, some from Italy, others allegedly from the United States and France, were funneled directly to the Vatican, bypassing traditional government channels. Why would the Church of all institutions suddenly become obsessed with such reports? The answer may lie in much older texts, scrolls, and manuscripts held deep in the Vatican library. Some date back to late antiquity. In them, there are cryptic accounts of heavenly chariots, beings of fire, and lights in the sky witnessed by monks, pilgrims, even popes. One 9th century chronicle speaks of a great wheel of flame hovering over St. Peter's Basilica itself. Throughout history, the Church has struggled to reconcile these strange apparitions with theology. Were they angels, demons, or something else entirely? The documents suggest another fear, that these encounters might be neither divine nor infernal, but entirely otherworldly, and that revelation, if proven, could shatter centuries of doctrine. In the 1990s, rumors spread of a suppressed document known as the Vox Stella, Voice of the Star, an alleged Vatican transcript of contact with an unidentified presence. No one outside a select few cardinals has seen this document, but whispers persist, especially after certain passages mysteriously surfaced on encrypted forms in 2012. Those fragments spoke of a warning that human contact with those who dwell between the spheres would not only alter history, but might trigger a great collapse of belief itself. And here's where the story takes its most chilling turn. Within certain circles of the Vatican, the story goes, there is a growing fear, not of aliens, but of a spiritual contagion, that humanity's increasing fascination with the stars may awaken old forces best left asleep. Forces that could erode the pillars of faith, identity, and human purpose. Perhaps this is why, even now, the Vatican maintains quiet surveillance of space phenomena, why certain archives remain sealed, untouched by modern eyes. But if you think that's unsettling, you haven't heard the half of it, because in the next section, we're going to uncover the one secret so controversial, even the highest orders of the Vatican refuse to record it on paper. You probably wouldn't have survived then, but would you dare to keep watching now? Among them are treatises from late antiquity and the early Middle Ages describing encounters with celestial chariots, beings of fire, and luminous wheels in the sky. These were not mere visions of saints or metaphors of divine light. The texts are chillingly precise. Dates, locations, descriptions of the craft's shapes and colors. Cross-referencing these medieval records with modern UFO sightings reveals an eerie consistency. In 1999, a sealed report known only to a small circle of clerics, the so-called Codex Lux Veritatis, was allegedly prepared. According to researchers who've glimpsed parts of it, this document linked certain extraterrestrial phenomena to ancient apocalyptic prophecies. It even referenced passages from the Book of Ezekiel and the apocryphal Book of Enoch, which describe angelic beings descending from the heavens in machines of gleaming metal. This raises an unsettling question. Does the Church secretly believe that humanity's contact with other intelligences is not new, but part of a recurring cycle foretold in ancient scripture? In more recent times, the Vatican has quietly cooperated with several international observatories, not just for scientific curiosity, but, as leaked correspondence hints, to monitor what they refer to as non-terrestrial anomalies. In 2011, a private Vatican communique referenced a then unreported NASA observation of a large unidentified object approaching the outer solar system. The tone of the letter wasn't scientific detachment. It was urgency, almost fear. The document suggested that the Church's role was not merely to observe, but to prepare humanity for events that may challenge established dogma. But prepare how? Through open disclosure or controlled revelation. There are hints in yet another curious piece of history, the so-called hidden sermon of Pope Pius XII, allegedly delivered in private to a select group of cardinals during World War II. This sermon warned that a day would come when beings from beyond our world may walk among us, and that the Church must be ready to interpret such encounters through the light of faith. Whether this is fact or myth remains hotly debated, but whispers of it persist in Vatican lore. Now take a breath, because the trail doesn't end here. In 2020, a leak from the Vatican Apostolic Archive referenced a recently digitized manuscript containing encrypted astronomical notations linked to an ancient map, one not of the Earth, but of a star system, known today to contain potentially habitable exoplanets. Why would such a map be in the Vatican? Was it gifted, found, or preserved for centuries, known only to the highest levels of the Church? Imagine the implications. If even a fraction of these stories are true, the Vatican may possess knowledge not just of Earth's spiritual history, but of cosmic history. And if so, what else are they hiding? Well, let's just say you probably wouldn't have survived being in that secret archive. But if you think this was shocking, wait until you hear what's next. And tell me in the comments if the Vatican truly holds ancient evidence of extraterrestrial contact. Do you think humanity is ready to face it? In 2015, a little-known Italian historian, Fabrizio Cassini, claimed to have found references in the Vatican Library to a set of encrypted documents called Libri Obscuri, the Dark Books. These were said to be writings so dangerous or heretical that they were never officially cataloged. One manuscript in particular caught his attention, a volume titled simply De Origine. Its few decrypted lines hinted at an alternative story of human origin, not the biblical Adam and Eve nor Darwinian evolution, but something else entirely. It described an insertion of intelligence, an intervention from beyond the stars. The wording was careful, almost terrified. Those who came from the firmament seeded wisdom in the vessel of clay. The text suggested that humanity's leap in consciousness was neither random nor divine, but engineered. Now consider the ramifications. If true, this would challenge every religious, historical, and scientific narrative we know. It would make humanity a designed species, its creators possibly still watching, and the Church, the keeper of this knowledge for centuries, would hold the ultimate forbidden truth. But it goes deeper. Hidden within certain cathedral frescoes, particularly in Florence and Rome, are bizarre motifs, beings descending from circular crafts, star maps embedded within religious scenes. Mainstream historians dismiss these as artistic flourishes, but in light of De Origine, these details take on chilling new meaning. Why were these images preserved in plain sight yet unnoticed? Some believe this was the Church's secret way of preserving the truth while avoiding direct heresy. A message for those with eyes to see. And there's more. In 2023, a hacker collective leaked fragments of Vatican internal emails discussing the Project Orion Codex, a digital archive compiling centuries of reports on unexplained phenomena. The leaks suggest the archive contains more than sightings. There are alleged transcripts of direct contacts, classified photographs of non-human artifacts, and even Vatican-led expeditions to anomalous sites in South America. One location in particular, a vast underground structure in the Andes, is linked to legends of sky gods and metal birds that brought knowledge to ancient peoples. Could the Vatican have known, for centuries, that our true history is far stranger than we imagine? And if so, why have they kept this hidden? Perhaps because the truth would shatter the world's spiritual foundations, or perhaps because the time to reveal it is not yet here. In any case, if you think you'd casually wander into those vaults, you wouldn't have lasted a minute. But trust me, the next secret will make everything you've heard so far feel tame. And what about you? Do you believe humanity's origin might involve something otherworldly? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.